Hey there guys, DMO73 here bringing you some footage from my pre-release. Wanted to show you guys my pack openings as well as one of the 3 matches that I had. While the packs are being open, let me just kind of talk about it. We ended up, we had 9 players, which was awesome. We played at Odyssey Games in Kalamazoo. I'm not going to say how it went, but it did go very well. We had a lot of really good fun. We packed a lot of rulers. We packed several Rayas, several Tigresses, several Gills, and eventually an Ayu was packed, which was awesome. So I'll go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about these cards as I'm going through. I'm not really seeing a ton of stuff in my packs. I'm just kind of going as quickly through, trying to see maybe what colors I'm in. And seeing kind of what's important. Gem Jail has been known to kind of be a really good card in this set for sealed, especially if you get gem production, but I didn't really have much up to this point, so I wasn't super excited about it. And I always try to check that first card in the back to see if maybe I pulled a ruler or not. Seeing a lot of black cards, a lot of green cards too, and white as well. So I'm already kind of starting to think that maybe that's the color I'm in. And right there, I see that I packed a Raya, so I'm immediately like, well, I'm going to be playing Darkness in some form, especially since I got this ability to start with 3 mystery counters and have this really powerful flying ruler. There's not a lot of stuff that has flying in this format for Ancient Knights, and there's even less stuff that can deal with flyers, especially as a J ruler. So Raya herself is just a very powerful bomb for sealed. I also get that Faith in the Darkness, which is a really good consistency tool for Darkness, especially in sealed. Being able to look at 5 cards and grab any resonator, especially since it doesn't have to be a Darkness creature, is really good. So I end up actually going green, black, white, and sticking with Raya. So we're going to move ahead into my first, one of my matches here. I'm playing against Josh, who is playing black, white, red Adventurer. He did not get lucky enough to pack a ruler, but he did get a lot of gem support. So he's playing Adventurer to be able to get those gems. So I am going to be on the draw. I ended up going on the draw every single game during my pre-release, which is great because I really like having that energized, and in this format with not a lot of 1-drops that are really potent, having that energized was very, very helpful to be able to get ahead. I thought about, one note, I did think about splashing a 4th color for blue just for that mirror that you saw, because I can kind of like steal my opponent's bombs, but then I was like, well, I've got Raya, I don't really need another bomb, and I want to go consistent, so I'm just going to go with 3 colors. Josh hits that redstone, he chooses not to filter it into any other color, he's going to save those. I hit a green stone on my turn 1 and go, well, I don't have filtering either, so I'm just going to go ahead and pass, not use that energize. Calls for stone, hits a darkness. Plays out his filtering statue, so he can use that statue once per turn to tap it and filter a will, which is really good for him color base wise. It also draws a card on enter, which is, you know, nice. You don't want too much draw power, but it is there. I'm going to play the Vampire Bard, hit him for 300 damage, and then gain 300 life. I have a couple of these in my pool. I think it's a very good card, especially for this format. 3 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but it can combo really well nicely, and there's no Severing Winds, so you can kind of just play cards, multiple cards a turn, and not really feel afraid of it. And there's a lot of little small blockers that only have like 3 stats, so Bard can /nicely get those out of the way. He's going to play the Darkness Golem here, and then he gets pinged at the end of his turn for 1 and gets a +1/+1 counter on it. I'm going to go ahead and use the Awakening on Darkblade Harvest and hit him for 7 damage by killing his creature with the Awakening, and then swinging for 5, taking him quickly down to 24. This is one of the reasons why I really enjoyed having Raya, is because I got these removals that take multiple mystery counters, and so right off the bat with Raya being able to cast those is a pretty big effect, pretty big bonus. Play 2 and play his Seal. See, he's setting up for that Elixir play in his hand. Burns my guy out of the way, and then plays his little gem twins that will die and give him more gems. Calling for stone again here. Paying 3. try to play out the Faithful Vampire. This is the vampire that everyone is so concerned about in this sealed format because of its stackable lifelink, which is pretty relevant. You know, one solid swing with 3 instances of lifelink is pretty much a way to just seal the game because your opponent just can't deal enough damage. He also happens to have a Darkblade Harvest, though he doesn't have any way to awaken it, so he is going to get that out of the way and then swing in for 1. If he had not been able to kill it, then what I could have done is in upkeep used Energize and my 1-of to give it at least 1 instance of lifelink and flying, and then recovered and given it at least 2 more instances of lifelink, and then swung and gained simply 24 life while hitting him for 8, which would have been a grand total of 3,200 life point swing, which essentially just locks him out of the game at that point. Playing McKay to help me get a little bit of draw power as well as being able to sacrifice it to kill stuff, which is very nice. It is sacking for 400 damage, which combos nicely with that Bard, like I said before, for being able to kill like 700 damage pretty quickly. Put out another creature. I'll put out my Dark Majin. I don't have the Darkness Seal in the deck at all, so it's just a 3-drop 8/8, but that's still a relevant body. So, especially since his board state is just that 1/1. He's going to call for stone. Get a light stone. Plays 2 and plays out his little Moss. This Moss is a very good card in this pre-release. Being able to stop things from untapping as well as just naturally being able to block flyers with its 1,000 defense. It was pretty relevant. Pretty relevant creature just overall. He also plays his, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the 3-drop 9/6 vanilla. Pretty good, just solid creature for the pre-release format. Again, he's just trying to kind of mount that board back at me. I'm going to go ahead and call for stone, see if I can maybe hit my light source, because I do have some light cards in my hand that would be nice to hit. Do not see it, but I do see my second green source, which is pretty good, because I have that quick cast double green guy in my hand, so I can kind of play a little bit control-y in the sense and kind of still get a creature out on his turn, potentially, to make some plays. He's going to block with his little guy, give himself 2 more counters, goes up to 3 total gems. I'm going to swing with McKay. He's thinking about how he wants to handle this. Whether or not he wants to use his blocker. He's going to use that Darkblade, and I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I'm going to kind of trade up into it. Losing my last thing to awaken, so I'm going to take 600 damage and pump up McKay +9/+9. So I'm going to get that Darkblade guy out of the way, and then McKay's just going to kind of sit there. So again, little trade-ups like that have definitely kept me ahead in this game. I'm getting creatures on board, and Josh kind of has to spend his turns kind of trying to reestablish, whereas I'm just kind of mounting continuous pressure, and eventually he's just going to get overrun. So he's thinking about whether or not to cast that Gem Jail. It will be very expensive for him to cast it, but it would completely wipe my board and leave him with a solid blocker, which might buy him the time he needs, especially having that Elixir in his hand to follow up the next turn with to kill whatever I'm going to play. Because it would be able to do 600 damage to my entire board. So he is going to go ahead and do the Gem Jail now, hitting all 3 creatures. I sack McKay here, and I'm like, oh, I'll ping it for some damage, even though it's just going to get exiled, and I have no way to recur it back to my hand. But I'm just kind of being cute. Because Gem Jail does RFG them, so the other 2 guys get removed, and then McKay's going to be like, oh, well, I guess I'll ping it for some damage, but it's not going to do anything. And then at the end of the turn, what I was hoping for happens, like to use that quick cast guy, get him into that spot. So even though he wiped my board, I still get a creature on board that he has to, again, continue to deal with. Going to go ahead and do Judgment, saving up 1 of my green sources. Go back up to 3 counters. I still have the Energized token. I'm going to spend 2 more, and I'm going to play Leaf Garb. Now, Leaf Garb is really good for this deck in my Seal Tool, mainly because it doesn't... It's a 6/6, which is a fine body, but it's also not double green. And after I play something like Faith in the Darkness, when I put stuff on the bottom of the deck, Leaf Garb will let me then shuffle. Because I don't have to send anything, but I do have to like actually look, you know, shuffle through the deck, so I can like fail to find in a pseudo, and it'll shuffle the deck. And out comes that Elixir, like we were saying, is going to burn my board for 600. I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine. He's going to pass the turn there. At the end of the turn, I'm going to use Rhea to get that Moss off the board. I'm more concerned about the Moss being able to stop Rhea because I'm 2 swings away from killing him right now, and Rhea is flying, so I can just fly over. Actually, but I'm going to see if I can deal with the Elixir anyway. Get that Faith in the Darkness, so I get to look at the top 5 cards of my deck, put a 2-drop into play. See, I see my other Bard. I'm going to burn the Elixir for 300 damage, and I get 300 life, so I go back up to 39, which is really nice. Swing for 12 in the air, and then I actually have... It's a little bit of a sacrifice, but I do have the deal 800 damage to all Resonators, so I don't have to use any of my Awakening counters to blow up the board, and I can just get both Resonators off the board. So again here, he has to try to, on an empty board, answer my Rhea, you know, try to kill her or get something that can block her or do something like that. And unfortunately, there's really no way to stop a 12/12 flyer. He's just really in trouble here. And he didn't have the will. If I remember correctly, so that costs 4. He didn't have enough will to do Judgment and play the Panda that can banish a gem to fly. So even though he played the Panda that could fly, he doesn't have a gem to banish, and so unfortunately he just can't block it. And so he just knows that he's just going to go ahead and say, I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to scoop the game. So you can move on to game 2. Again, he puts me on the draw, which there's no advantage for him to go on the draw, or on the... There's no advantage for him to go on the draw, but I'm not necessarily sure if going on the play is the right call there either. Letting me have the Energize is a little weird, but at the same time, either way, I'm going to have 2 will before he does, so I think he would rather just go first and try to put the pressure on me. Pre-release sealed, having a ruler with Energize versus a ruler who doesn't is definitely a very weird place to be. I'm going to go ahead and Energize on my turn 1, get that Golem out. I'll get hit for 1 at the end of the turn and get that 1/1 counter on it. And the main reason why I did this is it's kind of, I wanted to threaten his little Death Touch guy, so if he tries to swing at me for 1, I can just crack back for 7, and eventually, and I would get way more damage out of it. On my turn again, seeing that Faith in the Darkness, it turns out really well. I get that Bard again, get his little killer guy out of the way. I get to gain 3 life, and then the Golem is going to hit me for another 100, or get another counter, and then hit me for 200 to actually go back to 4,000. But here I am on turn 2 with an 8/8, a 5/4, and his board is completely clear. So I'm feeling pretty good there. Josh is, again, already starting to seem kind of on the back foot. He's got to try to figure out exactly how he wants to deal with everything that I have on the board. Now, he does have that fly, he does have access to the Moss there, but he chooses to play his little guy instead, which I think is fine. He can use it to block either one of those creatures, and then get some gems to set up for a gem jail in the following turns, which I think he's trying to do particularly. It would put him up to 3 gems, so he eventually would be able to stop 3 gems worth of creatures. He's going to go ahead and block, get himself some more gems. I'm going to go ahead and try to mobilize. He tries to swing in, and he uses one of his filters here for sealing the Gate of Darkness, which was a really smart play here, only having the 1, so he can just immediately just go, whoop, nope, I'm going to exile it, and gets that 8/8 off the board after I've wasted 1 will to try to swing. And then I'm going to use my next 2 to play the gem that lets me draw a lot of cards to just, again, try to make use of the will that I have and draw into more stuff. He is going to match me on that to play his addition, his little gem statue, to be able to draw a card, and then out comes that moss. Swing in, he blocks. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pump up my my vampire, take the 400 damage from it, and then kill it. So it's not gonna get untapped, but at least it's off the board and I don't have to deal with it later. And then I'll pass there. Every turn that I can keep Josh on the back foot is pretty good, where he has to, I can keep pushing pressure on him and then continue to apply more and more pressure, while he has to just try to spend his time answering my pressure and can't push me back. This plays this little guy, passes. I go to recover here, and I will catch it here in a little bit. I'm going to crack this before I keep drawing another card. I will catch it that it doesn't actually get to untap. So just keep that in mind. It's not supposed to untap there. I think in the match we might have forgotten it, but thankfully I went through the match, and that 5 damage, even if I didn't, not doing that 5 damage to Josh like it is on the life total now isn't affecting the final outcome. That particular number is not going to affect how things go. So it's good that even though it might have been messed up in the match, in hindsight, and then editing life totals to consider that swing not having happened, is still going to be right on time. So I'm going to play that Leaf Garb again here just to put out another creature, the fact that I have the blocker to deal with his big old guy. He's going to try to draw a card as well off of his little statue. I don't think he realizes that he needs to banish it, but he'll catch that here in a minute. It's a very interesting statue for sealed play. You know, you don't want to get too much draw power because you don't want to deck out, but at the same time, having access to that last little bit of stuff can be nice. He attempts to play that Seal of Fire to kill my guy. I'm going to Leaf Garb it, pump it up with the thing, take 400 damage, and then I attempt to block his guy swinging into my my Bard with it, and he's like, oh, I'll cast Darkblade Harvest, but I don't think he didn't realize that Darkblade Harvest isn't a quick cast. So they do trade, and then he's just going to go ahead and spend the Darkblade to kill the Bard. I think he probably could have saved the Darkblade there and not really dealt with the Bard that turn for sure. But I think maybe Josh was thinking, well, you've already seen that I've had it, so I might as well cast it because we are technically playing for keeps. I'm not sure what the mindset was there. Play that Faithful Vampire, because again, if he had saved the Darkblade Harvest, it could be used to kill this Faithful Vampire, so now he's got to try to be careful to not get, you know, double, triple, quadruple, quintuple life linked out of the game. And I'm kind of reading a gem jail here, so I'm trying to see what I should use to kind of back up Faithful Vampire. I want him to use the gem jail on Faithful Vampire because, again, it'll cost most of his turn, but I want to get the most value out of the cards I'm going to play before they get jailed, as well as having backup to reapply pressure after the jail. So after he's used this big, heavy hitting removal spell, I still want to be able to have creatures that put pressure back on him that he then can't really deal with, if that makes sense. So I play the McKay to kind of give myself some consistency, as well as maybe banish something. He does decide to play the Gem Jail here, paying the 5, getting the 2 guys out of the way, and burning 2 of his counters. So again, I made him use 5 will here to deal with 2 creatures, one of which was just a 2/2. So the Faithful Vampire was the major thing, but I wanted him to have to spend as much as possible to get the Faithful Vampire out of the way. So I made him use 2 gems and the 5 will just to do it, as opposed to just 3 will and 1 gem, and then maybe he could have made a follow-up play. Play the Bard again, gain 300 life, take him down to 37. Play my little demon guy, call for stone. So I'll pass the turn there. See, he just drew into his mirror, so he was thinking the same thing I was, which is just filtering one away to use the mirror, but I wasn't filtering, so better for him over me. He plays that, he uses his second filter though, so he's kind of locked away from that mirror to use Elixir and burn my board out of the way, and then he follows it up with his 9/6 again. So I'm a little bit on the back foot, but with so much will, it's not terribly concerning, because I can use Darkblade Harvest here and also deal 1,000 damage to him at the same time, getting the Elixir off the board, and then I can just do Judgment and have Rhea, which at this point can just answer his big old dude, and again he's back to having to deal with all of this heavy hitting stuff. So I'm 3 swings away here. Calls for stone again. Plays the Bard, takes him back up to 3,000, takes me down to 32. Still at 3 swings from Rhea. Gonna pay 5 and play his big dude. He gets him form 1 of each color gem. And he could play the Crest of Light, but it's not necessarily very beneficial for him at this point. And then I'm trying to kind of look and see. I'm at 7 will, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I'm going to spend 4, use 2 of my Awakening counters, and just destroy all Resonators on the board. So get rid of all 3 of those guys, and then I'll follow it up with an Elvish Exorcist who can just battle, be a really huge battler, and then I'll swing in the air for 12, taking him down to 18. Looks at his hand and he just says, yeah, no, I can't answer that. I didn't draw into anything there. So that is the match. I did end up going 3-0 at the pre-release, so I did end up winging the mat. I hope you guys had fun at your pre-releases. I will be doing a case opening live stream later this week, so check out that. But until next time, this is DMO73 signing off. Huge thanks to the patrons of the channel. You see their names on the screen here, some of them, and the rest are down below in the description for their support of the channel and the content. If you want to get a chance to get your name in the screen here and access to our private Discord server, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon by clicking that little P on the screen. Thanks so much. See you next time.